Hey petrol heads, what usually comes to your mind when you think about the Volvo brand? I truly believe that it would be a boxy, old school, old-fashioned maybe car from 70s. And even if you are not into cars, it is one of the strongest associations in the automotive industry. This remarkable image firstly brought the Volvo a huge worldwide success, however then it became a real problem for the brand. So today let's dive into the history of Volvo 200 series, which made this image, and also we'll try to understand why it became so legendary and also why it is still extremely popular among all car enthusiasts, from those who love to tune their cars to just car collectors. 1970s, do you remember the problem? Yes, it's an oil crisis. In 1973 the prices for petrol started to increase dramatically. And of course, all car manufacturers all around the world started to produce new platforms. And their idea was to produce an ideal compact car. Volvo would also try to compete in this class with their 300 series, but it would be a little bit later and also it wouldn't be a huge success. But in 1974, when Volkswagen presented the Golf, Volvo came up with 200 series. And while Volkswagen Golf changing the Beetle was a revolution in the automotive industry, if we talk about Volvo 200, it was more about evolution after the 100 series. The previous 100 generation of Volvo wasn't extremely popular globally. Yes, it was a successful car for the local brand. However, no huge success. So nobody could predict that 200 generation would become a legend, because it was the same kind of a mid-size car with a rear-wheel drive front engine. No revolution, however, it was improved in almost everything. The model had a new McPherson front suspension, which was a revolution at that time talking about technologies. And also we had in this car all 4 disc brakes, new steering. So the car became extremely balanced, extremely great in handling and also comfort. So it was a great offer. As well as with Volkswagen Golf, customers had a great variety of options. The car had 7 trims. Could you imagine it? We are talking about 1974 cars. And it's not about engines, it is 7 different trims, different specs that you can buy a car in. And also I'm not talking and I'm not counting here any special versions. By the way, let's now figure out the Volvo indexes from this time and the names of the model. So it contains 3 digits. The first one goes for the generation, the second one is the number of cylinders, and the third one is the number of doors. So Volvo 245 is a 4-cylinder station wagon, and if we talk for example about 262 Volvo, it would go for a 6-cylinder coupe. After these 3 digits, the whole name of the model would contain one of the 7 trims. So quite a complicated thing, but it was a real choice for the real buyers. And it was a game-changing thing for the cars, for the automotive industry at that time. Because not everywhere you could choose from a lot of specifications, especially if we talk about quite an affordable cars. Firstly, Volvo 200 series was presented with 4-cylinder engine, actually with the family of engines which name was a red block. And it was a huge success. They were extremely reliable and bulletproof. They are one of the most reliable engines on this planet in the whole automotive history. And for example, these cars were in Swedish taxis until the mileage of 1 million kilometers, and probably you can still find these X-taxis somewhere in Africa. Of course, the first-time buyers knew nothing about the reliability of these engines, and they could just imagine it, there were no information and all that, no data. But I would say that for sure, this reliability was a recipe for the success, one of the main recipes for the success of the Volvo 200 series, because this car was in production for 19 years, until 1993. And with all development of the automotive industry, you should have a very strong argument to purchase a car which is 19 years old, even 15 years old. So, The reputation of these engines was a huge success for the Volvo. In 1976, Volvo presented six-cylinder versions. They wasn't so legendary and wasn't so reliable, but it was an extremely good engine, 2.7 with something around 130 horsepower. So they were quite powerful, maybe more suitable for this car, talking about some premium characteristics, but still, they wasn't so legendary. But being not so legendary nowadays, these engines helped Volvo to compete with, for example, German premium car makers, and there was a success in this battle because, for example, Volvo for 19 years sold more than 2.8 million units, and Mercedes with their W123 sold less worldwide, only 2.6 million. Yes, Mercedes wasn't in production for 19 years, but for such a local brand like Volvo to win the competition with Mercedes, I think it's an extremely big thing. Of course, it's not a very good comparison because Volvo mostly made their money on selling the basic trims and basic versions of 200 series. But also, because of the huge success of basic models, they had an opportunity to produce a really game-changing cars. Not game-changing for the brand sales results, but for the image of Volvo. Volvo couldn't dominate on the market with BMW and Mercedes. However, they produced in 1978 one of the most beautiful, as I see it at least, cars in the world, which was 262. Engineered and designed by Volvo with this extremely beautiful lower roofline, but built by Bertone manufacturer in Italy. It was a masterpiece. In the 1980s, Volvo started a new turbocharged era for their 200 series, and they became even more legendary. The turbocharged version of 245 series became the world's fastest estate car, and 9 seconds from 0 to 100 km per hour or 62 miles per hour acceleration was enough to set this record. These cars became a real icon for car enthusiasts all around the world, and not only estate cars of course, but all versions of 4-cylinder turbocharged engines. Because as you remember, it was built based on the red block engine, so extremely reliable. And yes, they produced not extremely huge power output, about 150 horsepower. However, you could always tune it to be the fastest car on the road. In the modern world, you can find these cars with original engines from 1980s that is built to produce up to 500 horsepower. Could you imagine it? Also, safety became a real priority for Volvo starting from 200 series and forever now, because this car was the first Volvo that was engineered with crumble zones and also safety cage for passengers. And that was a real big difference, and it really saved a lot of lives. So now we have an image of Volvo being extremely safe car. You know that Volvo tests their cars as no other brand do on this planet, and that also started from 200 series. On the track, Volvo also became successful with their 240 turbo. They built a car with 2.1 turbocharged engine that produced 350 horsepower. With this engine, this boxy car could accelerate up to 260 km per hour or 162 miles per hour, and they won touring championships in 1984, 1985 and 1986.
This is a battle between Rover and Volvo's first and second ahead of the Rover. The Volvo gives us superb demonstration of speed and reliability.
with the story of Volkswagen Golf with their MK1 and then GTI, Volvo first came with a very practical product for the everyday life. However, then they built a real car for car enthusiasts. And car community really fell in love with this car design, technology, engineering and everything. However, while 200 series became the most successful model for Volvo and it was in production until 1993, it gave Volvo a strange image. An image of a boring car, too practical car maybe, and a car for people, let's say, over 40. And yes, it became a problem for Volvo in future. Yes, of course, there was a huge community of Volvo lovers all around the world with turbocharged engines, but it was something like 2-3% of customers. But then Volvo came up with 700 series, 900 series, which was kind of a development of the style of the image of 200 series. So Volvo in the start of 2000s became really not an exciting car and not the first choice, of course. All attempts of Volvo to make some exciting car really failed, but maybe there was only one try and it was a C30 model. Extremely nice looking car, I think better looking than BMW first series or something like that, but it failed in sales. And I believe only because of the image of the brand. Yes, partly they overcome it with the new design starting from the middle 2010s, but still, maybe when we hear Volvo, we think about 200 series. In general, Volvo 200 series maybe wasn't a revolution in the automotive industry, but it became an ideal car for everyone, like Volkswagen Golf. That's the recipe for the success, when any customer can find a car for him. Exciting car, fast car, practical car, reliable car, everything you could find in 200 series. So next time you see a Volvo 200 still running like a new one, just remember, it wasn't really a car, it was a statement. Thank you for watching, see you soon, hope you enjoyed watching this video, your like would support it a lot, please write in comments what do you remember about Volvo 200 series, share your stories. See you soon, alright now if you click one of these two videos, I hope you will enjoy them as well.